In the following question, you're given reactions of an element which is X and a compound which is YZ. So X is given, YZ is given, and the reaction with an acid is given. So the equation is given for the reaction, and he's saying that 1 gram of either X or YZ is reacted. So which basically means both of them have the same mass. This is 1 gram, and YZ is also 1 gram. And they reacted with an excess of acid, and the total volume of gas formed is the same. So at the end of the day, the volume of the gases formed is going to be the same volume. So that's the only information that is provided, and he's asking for you to determine which of the statements, which of the following statements is correct. So we're going to start off with the first one, and we're going to figure out whether the first statement is correct or not. Now, the only information that's given is that the mass of both substances is given. So what you can do is you can find the moles. Moles would be mass divided by the AR of X, or for YZ, moles would be equal to 1 mass divided by the MR of YZ. So these are your moles in terms of AR of X and MR of YZ. So these two are your moles of X and YZ. Now, if you look at the reaction, 1X produces 1H2 and 1YZ produces 1H2Z gas. So the ratio in which the gas and the moles of X are present, it's 1:1. So the moles of H2 gas are going to be exactly the same. They're going to be 1 gram divided by the AR of X. And the moles of H2Z gas, because it's 1:1, 1YZ solid produces 1 mole of H2Z gas. So the mole ratio is exactly the same. So the moles of YZ are going to be the moles of H2Z. So the moles of H2Z would be 1 gram divided by MR of YZ. Now, one thing that we talked about earlier is that the two gases, the question states that the total volume of gas formed is the same in both cases. So the gas formed has the same exact volume. So if the gas has the exact same volume, that would mean that the moles of the gas would be exactly the same, because 1 mole of gas occupies 24 dm cube. So irrespective of whatever gas that is, if the volume is the same, the moles of the gas are going to be exactly the same, which means that the moles of H2 gas and the moles of H2Z gas, they are going to be equal. So the moles of H2 gas are this and the moles of H2Z gas are this, and they would be equal, which means that 1 divided by the AR of X, which these are the moles of H2 gas, they are the same as the moles of H2Z gas, which is 1 divided by the MR of YZ. And if I rewrite this, this would become AR of X is equal to the MR of YZ. So the first statement, this statement over here is going to be correct. Now we are going to move to the next statement, which is the second statement, which is that X and Y are metals. Now if you look at the reaction, you would notice that X is a positive ion and Y is also a positive 2+ ion, which means positive ions are formed by metals. Hydrogen is one exception. Hydrogen also forms a positive ion. So positive ions are formed by metals. So in aqueous state, metals form a positive ions. So this statement is very likely to be correct. So X and Y are going to be metals because they're forming positive ions. And similarly, we move on to the third statement, which is that X and Y must both be in the same group. If they're in the same group, they would have the same charge. For example, if they're in group 1 metals always have +1 charge. If they're in group 2 metals always have +2 charge. Now, if you look at the two elements, X and Y, you would notice that they both have 2+ charge. So it's very likely that they're probably in group 2, because group 2 has +2 charge. But transition metals also have variable charges, and they could have +2 charge as well. So this statement is not always going to be true, because it could be that both might belong to transition metals. Transition metals also have +2. Transition metals can have any charge. They have a lot of different varieties of charges. They can be +2, +3, +1, +4, etc. So they could possibly be in the same group because they are in having a charge of 2 plus. So they could be in group 2, but they could also be transition metals. So this third statement, we're not very sure. X and Y must both be in the same group. It could be that X could be in group 2 and Y could be a transition metal. So this statement is not always going to be true. So the third statement is not always going to be correct. So we're going to cross this statement out. This statement is not always going to be correct, but the first two statements look they would always be correct. So the options 1 and 2 would be correct, and this option, according to the key, is option B.